One of my favorite childhood sayings, I remember growing up in Barbados and we had a lot of euphemism, but one of my favorite sayings is all that glitters is not gold. All that glitters is not gold. Primarily what it's saying is just because it looks like gold doesn't mean it's gold. You've heard of fool's gold. You've heard of being deceived by gold or deceived by people who try to pass things off as gold. I once bought a gold necklace from a guy in a Ross parking lot. And of course it wasn't a gold necklace. When I got home, the thing was, you looked at it with a microscope and you could see all the flaws, but it was passed off as gold. How many of you in a relationship and you're coming to the conclusion that what you thought originally was a gold nugget or this vast wealth of gold is turning out to be a pot of coal? It feels like it, right? You're looking at this person next to you in the relationship and you're thinking, what the heck? What happened? This is not the person I married. But think about this. It is the person that you married. The truth of the matter is you didn't pay enough attention to that person before you married them, or they were good enough at camouflaging who they were to the point where you didn't know who they were until you were way into the relationship. But it's there. It's been there all along. People don't just show up at this other person that and masquerade as another. This is who they've always been, whether they have hidden that from the other person or chosen to hide it from themselves. At some point, however, it will come through. Whatever is in the dark shall come to light. And for many of you watching this video, you're probably in the space where something in the dark came to light and you do not like it. You don't know how to deal with it. You're having issues dealing with that because you feel duped, you feel ripped off, or you feel like this person deceived you. Deception is a very interesting thing in relationships because a lot of the deception that comes into relationships sometimes is not through awareness. I mean, there are people who are really good at, like the classical sociopath or narcissist who is good at camouflaging their identity for the sole purpose of deception. But then a lot of people in relationships don't know why they're changing or who they're becoming until it's too late or until a certain situation is presented and prompts them to behave a certain way. What I'm talking about is trauma, not just childhood trauma, but trauma that that person may have encountered in their life at some point, and they've brought that trauma to the relationship. Trauma is real. A lot of people have PTSD and they don't realize they do until they're in a relationship and the other person is triggering a response with themselves. And they're like, why am I behaving this way? If you're lucky, most of the times they don't want to examine why they're behaving this way. They immediately think that you're causing them to behave this way. So it becomes a thing of, putting the blame or displacing that blame onto someone else instead of acknowledging that this is their thing, this is their issue, and this is something that they need to work through. I wish that people, when they started dating, would get all the nuances out in the open, talk about their childhood trauma, talk about the drama also, and talk about the issues that they have affected them as an individual so that the person that they're engaging with could really get a look into their minds and into who they are or potentially could be. It would save so much trouble, I know that some of my clients, I remember one client told me she actually had a questionnaire. Did you do this? Were you this and this and that? It worked for her, but I don't think all those questions were answered adequately or honestly, because that's the other issue. Most people are not honest. They're not honest with the trauma that they encountered. They're not honest bringing that to the forefront of a relationship because, like we all know, everybody presents their best self, and then that best self cannot be marred by things that would make the other person judge them. I think judgment needs to go because the judgment could save you a lot of heartache and headache later on. I think that we have to ask the right questions. I've said that here before. Asking the right questions, trying to find out how that person has been affected in their life by their individual trauma is necessary. The other thing is that we use that whole notion, even if the person tells us about their trauma, sometimes we use that as an excuse, a distraction from our own trauma and our own issues. We don't want to face our own issues and trauma. So it is really good at where we get really adept at looking at the other person's trauma and drama and focusing on that as a distraction away from our own. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of things in our closet, but who wants to go through their closet, especially on a Wednesday when they don't have time, and on a Wednesday when they have to do other things that are more important? Most of us don't want to go through our closet. Most of us don't want to take self-inventory and look at ourselves and say, this is what's wrong with me. It's only when you're in a relationship and you haven't done that kind of self-inventory and the other person is pointing out your flaws or your shortcomings that then you say, some people say, maybe I should look at me. Others point the finger back at the other person and say, maybe you should look at you. Most people are not ready to deal with their own trauma. Most people are not ready to do the self-introspection that is necessary to grow individualistically. And I've always said that, and I maintain this, that in order to be a whole person in a relationship, you have to be a whole person as an individual. Is there such a thing as wholeness? There's such a thing as working towards being whole consistently, but the recognition that you're fractured is necessary in order to start their journey towards wholeness. Distraction. Stop looking at other people as a way to distract you from the real work at hand, which is yourself. If you want to show up as your best self in a relationship, then do the work first. Stop going out there trying to date other people that you know are only going to limit your growth or prevent you from growing. Instead, start here at your core with you, because by understanding yourself, it helps you to understand others and understand others' emotions and how other people function. You know, I've met a lot of people in relationships, and a lot of people going to relationships because of the white knight syndrome. You know, they go there because they have the savior complex. They want to save someone from themselves. Let me get close. It is impossible. And I think I have another video here that says that you can't help somebody who's not ready to help themselves. You cannot save someone who is not willing to admit their trauma. You cannot save someone who is not willing to do the work. That person has to want to do the work, because what happens in relationships a lot of times is the person may say they want to do the work, because people can say anything when they're in the heat of passion and new love. But it's far from the truth when you get into the relationship and you realize they never did the work. You know, you're convinced that your love, this feeling, this euphoric feeling you have with this person, this shared momentum, this shared passion between you is going to be enough to eradicate all the issues that this person has, that they've had since childhood. It doesn't work like that. You can't save someone who's not willing to save themselves. That's all I got to say about that. The other issue is that not only are you looking for a relationship as a distraction from yourself or your problems, or that you're trying to save someone else rather than save yourself, again, also a distraction. But the other thing that happens in relationships is that you put all the effort and energy into building something that is literally going to be built on a lie. Because if you choose not to be honest with yourself at any point, whether it's before you enter into the relationship, during the relationship, or in the ongoing phases of the relationship, you're always going to come back to that starting point. And the starting point is always the truth. You need to be honest with each other. Put all the cards on the table. Tell the other person the truth. And I'm going to be very honest with you. You're not always going to get the truth. There are a lot of people that lie to themselves. There are a lot of people that don't want to admit that the trauma they experience as children is something that is still haunting them. That is something that is still very much a part of their makeup, is something that still causes them emotional trauma or results in them causing others emotional upheaval. A lot of people are not there. They're not self-aware. But in order to be self-aware, you have to be in a place where you recognize through your track record, either broken relationships or a lot of relationships that you cannot explain what went wrong. And a lot of times it's not looking for the other person to figure out what went wrong with the relationship. A lot of times it's with you, starting with you, analyzing yourself, looking deep within and saying, you know what? I contributed to that, taking accountability for your actions versus trying to hold the other person accountable for your actions is very necessary in order to have a healthy relationship with yourself and with the other person. There's a lot of work that needs to be done internally. And relationships are not broken just because people fight over, finances or children or, or infidelity and stuff like that. Relationships are also broken because two people that were broken started the relationship in the first place. And that's a lot of relationships. And it's okay. You can work through it. You can work through it together. But what I'm proposing is that you take an individualistic approach to working through it. Both of you need to work on yourselves. You need to acknowledge if there's any trauma, acknowledge your intention for using your partner or your spouse as a distraction, acknowledging that you have issues that you have not acknowledged within yourself, and wanting to come to a place where you want to work on those issues, and realizing that a true relationship is about healing. It starts with individualistic healing so that the collective can really grow and really develop and really take off. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting the YouTube channel. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for subscribing to the videos. Thank you for telling others about what I'm doing here. I encourage you to continue watching the videos. I hope that there's something I say that can spark something in you, whether it is on your journey towards growth or just getting on the journey, whatever it is, just keep on coming. And, please reach out to me and let me know how you're doing. You can reach me 813-708-9064. Thanks.